Have you experienced any experience with the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO?
Yes, Congressman, as I mentioned previously, I have met with them.
Okay. You heard Mr. Elizondo describe psychological operations for those contacting the Department of Defense about UAPs. You mentioned a similar influence operation by AARO. Why are federal agencies invested in running information operations about UAPs if they do not exist?
Yes, sir. But I'll make a statement on AARO's behalf. They have new leadership. The office has reached out to me to meet again, and I take that as a good faith effort, and we'll see where that goes.
Thank you, Chair Lady Averano.
All right, guys, I know that politics is usually what I'm focused on, but the UAP issue has been something that's been on my peripheral for quite a while. It's more of a personal interest. I've been interested in that UFOs, UAPs since I was a kid, and in the 90s, I really delved into it and read a whole lot of books about Roswell, read Chariots of the Gods, a few of Zechariah Sitchin's books, and I've kind of faded out of that until probably 2017 when the Go Fast and the Tic Tac video, all those videos came out. So it picked up a little bit of fascination again, but it's also kind of been on my peripheral. And a couple years ago, they started these hearings where we had David Grush and Fravor come into Congress, and I caught those entire hearings, but this latest one on November 13th that we've had, I haven't really had a chance to catch that whole thing, but I caught a little bit. I've caught a few clips here and there, and today I've got a clip that I caught of Lou Elizondo testifying that just happened to be related to and I think it's connected to something that I was just studying on and researching the other day. So I wanted to watch this with you guys and then talk about it. And now understand, I know that there are many of you that know a whole lot more about this topic than I do. I'm such a novice, and I'm not trying to give my full opinion. These are my ideals, and if you have information that verifies that, or if you agree, please let me know in the comments. If you have more information that'll help me have a more broader view of the topic, please let me know. I want to try to gather all the information that I can on this. But so anyways, this is Lou Elizondo testifying in Congress, and I'm going to go through this, and then I'm going to pull up a page that I was reading the other day that I think is related to it. So, and then I'm going to give you my idea of how I think these two things are related and what was actually going on. And like I said, you guys let me know if you disagree or if you agree. So, anyways, let's take to it. Let me drop this down here. Let me drop this down to about right there. Okay, so here we go.
Mr. Burleson, I'll recognize you for 5 minutes of questions, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Elizondo, does any branch of the United States government or defense contractors possess technology?
Sir, there's documentation that I believe was submitted for the record that was approved for release by the U.S. Pentagon, by the Department of Defense Office of Pre-Publication Security Review, and it states one of the reasons why my predecessor program, OSAP, was trying to collect material of unknown origin.
That's what we're going to talk about.
Was it successfully collected?
It was not. What happened is that there was an aerospace contract company that requested to divest itself of the material that was collected in the 1950s. Right. Unfortunately, that didn't actually occur.
So let's dive into that. That's the Bigelow Aerospace, correct? So
yes, sir.
There was a journalist, Christopher Sharp, who said that there was a transfer between Lockheed Martin, Bigelow Aerospace, and the CIA allegedly blocked this. Can you describe that?
What I can say is that it was blocked. Why it was blocked, I can only surmise. I was part of some conversations later on with some of those contract personnel where they had told all of us that is accurate. What we required was a memo from the Secretary of the Air Force in order to make that complete, and that never occurred. And so when Secretary Mattis became Secretary of Defense, I decided it would be appropriate for me to try to receive a memo from him as SecDef, as Secretary of Defense, if we could not get a memo from the Secretary of the Air Force to transfer that material.
So if that material exists today, who's in possession?
Sir, I wouldn't be able to have that conversation in an open hearing. We'd probably have to have that.
Okay, my question to you then is, if we were in a secure setting, if we were in a SCIF, would you be able to provide or get access to something, whether it's visuals or material that we could put our hands on, or biologics, that would convince me, that would show me that we have non-human origins?
Sir, that decision would not.
That's a term that Grush used several of these intel and military, former military guys use as biologics, non-human biologics, which is an interesting, to me, it's a very interesting terminology because it leaves a vast ocean open for what that could possibly mean, right? I have a few ideas of what that probably or likely means, but I'll save that for another time. I don't really think it's extraterrestrial, though I could be wrong. And if you guys have some more information, like I said, let me know in the comments that maybe leans toward it is an extraterrestrial. But it's just an interesting phraseology that they use to be vague and leave a lot of possibility open, and I just find that interesting.
Be mine. That would be to the gatekeeper still in the U.S. government.
And who would we, so if you were in our shoes, where would you go from here? How would you get that information? A lot of times we just don't know who to ask because we don't know where to go next. So if you were in our shoes, where would you go?
Well, I prefer to answer that question in a closed session. However, we established AARO for that very purpose, and unfortunately, under its previous leadership, it failed. So one would hope that they would have the authorities necessary to do that. Let's hope that this new iteration of leadership will be successful.
Now, that's something I didn't know, that AARO, like I said, I don't have nearly the information that I'm sure a lot of you do, but I know that there was AARO, that he was involved in or something, but it's been changed over to a new management or something. That's something I've just discovered right here. I didn't know that. I thought it was just an ongoing program.
In the discussions, it's simply about material, or is there discussion about it was previously testified that there was biologics that were collected. Are you aware of any of that?
I am, sir, aware of the reporting that biologics have been recovered. Again, my focus was more nuts and bolts, looking at the physical aspects of these phenomenon, how they interacted around military equities and nuclear equities. So I'm certainly not a medical expert. I would not be able to probably provide you a whole lot of value in that simply because I don't have the expertise.
But was anything described as that we have possession of bodies?
Yes, yes.
We have is it multiple types of creatures, or?
Sir, I couldn't answer that. I can tell you anecdotally that it was discussed quite a bit when I was at the Pentagon. The problem is the supposed collection of these biological samples occurred before my time, in fact, before I was even born.
And was this part of the Lockheed Martin discussion, or was this the biologics is a completely separate?
Separate yet related.
Okay. Has anyone made contact?
Separate yet related. I think that's interesting as well.
Sir, I'm sorry, could you specify?
Has there been any, to your knowledge, any communication with a non-human life form?
So the term communication is a bit of a trick word because there's verbal communication like we're having now. The problem is you also have nonverbal communication. And so
you have nonverbal communication. Now think about that. When we send, I'm not sure what they're called, but people who study, apes or monkeys, and they go in and they teach these apes, chimpanzees, sign language. See, that's communication. that they're having. That's nonverbal communication that they have with other primates. So those would be non-human biologics. So let's just keep that in mind.
So I would say definitively yes, but from a nonverbal meaning, when a Russian reconnaissance aircraft comes into U.S. airspace, we scramble 2 F-22s, and we are certainly communicating intent and capability. I think the same goes with this. We have these things that are being observed over controlled U.S. airspace, and they're not really doing a good job hiding themselves. They're making it pretty obvious they have the ability to even interfere with our nuclear equities and our nuclear readiness.
Is the United States government and our contractors, are they pulling technology from this? They're reverse engineering this?
Sir, as I previously stated, and please forgive me, I am not authorized to discuss specifics about crash retrievals. I signed documentation with the U.S. government. What I can say was, after a very thorough review process by the Pentagon, what I wrote about, and that was my limit, unfortunately, that I was given.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we have that from Lou Elizondo. He's talking about materials, and I was on AARO's website the other night, just unrelated to this, and that led me to what was the other one, the National Archives. So I was started at AARO and ended up on the National Archives, but that's a story for another day. But on AARO's website, All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, we have, I think this is the front page here, the front home page, ORNL, which is, it says in 2022, the All Domain Anomaly AARO contacted the Oak Ridge National Laboratory, or ORNL, to conduct materials testing on magnesium alloy specimen. This specimen has been publicly alleged to be a component recovered from a crashed extraterrestrial vehicle in 1947 and purportedly exhibits extraordinary properties such as functioning as a terahertz waveguide to generate anti-gravity capabilities, that's a since reigniting my fascination in this entire area, it's led me down so many rabbit holes already, and I know that you guys know how that goes. If you have some pathways and directions you could lead me to that you'd like to see me head down, let me know in the comments, and let me know in future videos. Please, subscribe to come back. I'd like to keep in contact, especially with those of you who know way more about this topic than I do. In April 2024, ORNL produced a summary of findings documenting the laboratory's methodology to assess this specimen's elemental and structural characteristics. So I want to look at this, but I'm not going to read through the whole thing because it's long and it's scientific and it's much of it's just boring. But we'll start with the beginning here. Let me move this up here so it's not. All right, now let me come back down here. The All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office sponsored a series of measurements on a layered material specimen primarily composed of magnesium and zinc with bands of bismuth and other co-located trace elements. Now, we heard Lou Elizondo talking about materials, right? And he was being sort of vague about that, and almost like he didn't know how to, or he knew, or he couldn't talk about how they could put their hands on these materials or whatever. But is this the materials, especially some of you guys that actually know more about this and can make the connection, is this the material that he was talking about? Because I'm not sure, but I think it is. I think this is the materials that he was testifying about. The material specimen, whose origin and purpose are of long and debated history, is claimed to be recovered from an unidentified anomalous phenomena crash in or around 1947, which is interesting. Leads us down another rabbit hole, but 1947 was the Roswell crash, if you remember. Furthermore, the specimen's physiochemical properties are claimed to make the material capable of inertial mass reduction, levitation, or anti-gravity function, possibly attributable to the material's bismuth and magnesium layers acting as a terahertz waveguide. So this is material that they're having tested to see if it's terrestrial or possibly something from a UAP, maybe an extraterrestrial craft, right? And that's when I heard Lou Elizondo talking about materials, and the congressional member, sorry I don't remember his name, but asking him if they could put their hands on this material. I'm linking. I just was looking at this the other night, and I'm linking that this is the material he was talking about. I'm pretty sure. Previously, U.S. Army Combat Capabilities Development Command established a cooperative research and development agreement with the STARS Academy to evaluate the feasibility of exploiting any potential disruptive technology associated with this widely discussed specimen. We're going to skip some here. Material science analysis. Okay, so AARO tasked ORNL with assessing whether, 1, the specimen is of terrestrial or origin, and 2, the bismuth in the specimen could act as a terahertz waveguide. DEVCOM Ground Vehicle System Center provided ORNL access to the metallic specimen in a single parent sample and 3 previously derived subsamples, all from the same material beginning in February 2023. If you guys want to read this entire document, feel free. It's over on AARO's website. I can put a link down in it. It's AARO.mil. I can put a link to it in the description. But ORNL Materials Science Analysis evaluated the sample structure, chemical composition, and isotope ratios via multiple methods, including microscopy, spectroscopy, and spectrometry. Results align with the previous DEVCOM analysis, indicating that the structure and composition of the bismuth layers do not meet the requirements necessary to serve as a terahertz waveguide. Furthermore, all data strongly support the material is terrestrial origin. So if this is the material that he's talking about, the test that they did on it showed that it is terrestrial and it couldn't be used as a anti-gravity device or whatever. So that's interesting. And, there's a lot of this scientific stuff on this. This document may be fascinating. I didn't find it particularly fascinating, but maybe it would be to you, and please go over and check it out. Again, it's AARO.mil, and it'll be in the description. But this is okay. So this is another page that was on that, or another PDF that was on that same page. Historical context and likely origin. This is the thing. See, they don't really know the origin of this. Starting in 1915 and peaking during World War II, there was widespread domestic research on magnesium alloys for airframes, engines, weapons, and delivery systems. At the time, researchers did not fully understand magnesium corrosion and other failure mechanisms. Many projects studied magnesium zinc alloys with 1 to 4 WT%. I'm not sure what that means. Zinc and magnesium. Other projects studied the impact of, I think that's lead and bismuth additives and magnesium alloys for corrosion resistance. The research found that lead and bismuth would concentrate at the surface due to lower surface tension, consistent with the banding seen in this specimen. The specimen's grain structure, zinc concentration, and banding of bismuth lead are also consistent with the out of equilibrium processes, such as vapor deposition in a vacuum chamber that may have contained impurities. Before 1970, vapor deposition manufacturing techniques were not fully mature, and achieving pristine thin films remain challenged. Let's see. Research, development, testing, and evaluation is an iterative process. This process subjects, historically, the scientific community has not extensively documented failed experiments. Many magnesium alloy failed for reasons not well understood at the time of the testing. Stress, corrosion, cracking. Unsurprisingly, records of failed magnesium alloy designs are scant. Well, because when you're putting them together and stress testing them, whatever, and you have a bad one, you just throw it away. I guess. I don't know. I've never been involved with that. But you just throw that away and try again and only record the right ones, because who cares about the bad ones, you don't. That seems, I don't know why they wouldn't have not well understood at the time. Unsurprisingly, I don't know why they say unsurprisingly records failed of magnesium alloy. Records of failed alloy designs are scant. It seems like you'd want to keep track of even the failed ones so that you don't, remake that one again. But neither AARO nor ORNL could verify the specimen's historical origin, which is interesting, right? I think that's interesting. But I think it's pieces of the Roswell crash. That's what I'm thinking right now. These are probably pieces of the Roswell crash. And I know that many people fully believe that was an extraterrestrial event, and maybe it was. I'm not saying it wasn't, but I have some other ideas on what that is. Right around then, we were doing a lot of testing of new technologies, new metals, new designs, new things, right? And there would have been again, at that time, this magnesium zinc, this alloy was the high tech. This was secret tech, right? So if a farmer, say Mac Brazel, had found that on his farm from a crash, I know he said there's nothing that he had ever seen. He had no metal that he had ever seen like it, and it acted, but he would have never seen that because that was a new alloy that probably only the military and the military scientists knew about, which, well, it's an interesting story to know who the scientists were at that time. But regardless of the specimens attributed to a specific research project, it is consistent with well-documented magnesium alloy research projects during the mid-20th century. So this is from the 40s, late 40s, mid-40s, somewhere between the 40s and the 60s, right? This is metal that they were practicing with or studying, or the alloys that they were researching at that time. AARO concurs with ORNL's finding that the specimen isotopic composition indicates terrestrial origin. AARO also concurred, but no one at that time, if they had found that metal, would have known it would have seemed extraterrestrial, because they would have never experienced the behavior of a metal like that before. AARO also concurs with ORNL's findings that its physical and elemental properties are incompatible with functioning as a terahertz waveguide. So this hasn't been used as a anti-gravity device or whatever. Considering all available evidence, AARO assesses that this specimen is likely a test object, a manufacturing product or byproduct, or a material component of aerospace performance studies to evaluate the properties of magnesium alloys. Okay, so sometimes when you hear about the old-time stories of crashes like Roswell, you hear about, or I have heard, maybe you haven't, but if you have more information on this, please let me know. But I've heard descriptions of the crafts being seemingly like maybe from a 3D printer, where there are no seams and no nuts, no bolts, right? But I don't know how you bond these magnesium alloys, but let's say you have two pieces, one here and one here, you make the disc, right? Well, they said there was lead and bismuth in this. If you put these two together, can you fuse them together using the around the edges? If you use lead and bismuth to seal these two saucers together, would it look like there were no seams? You could completely hide the seams. It would look like it's just one molded piece altogether, which that's kind of off topic, but anyway, so this is the material. I was reading about these material studies just the other night, and then I just happened to catch that clip today, and I was like, I made a connection. These may be the same two things, but if you know if they are, if you know if these are talking about two different things, let me know in the comments. I want to hear from you. And again, if you have more information, more rabbit trails you'd like to see me head, rabbit holes you'd like to see me dive down, I would love to do that. I want to dive into this a little bit and try to catch up on some of the information that's come out in these last few years that I really haven't kept up on. It's like I said, it's kind of been in my peripheral, and I haven't really been deep diving into it, especially lately. The election has had me completely wrapped up in it. So anyways, that's my thoughts on it. You guys let me know what you think, and thanks.